Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 2. I stared at the maid's uniform, if you could call it that. "I'm not wearing that."
"Yes, you are,"
Mason retorted.
"If you don't, I'll send that picture out to all my friends, and you can be sure that someone will post it online."
My heart constricted at the thought of that happening, but I couldn't abide by his plans for me either. "I'm not going to let you use me for sex."
I never said anything about sex. I told you that Addison already took care of that.
I looked at him warily. "Then why do you want me to wear that skimpy thing?"
I'm just trying to help you get a head start on your career as a stripper.
My heart began pounding, and I shook my head in desperation. I can't strip for you." He stepped intimidatingly close.
"You'll do anything I tell you to do,"
he warned.
"So don't argue with me, or I really will make you strip for me. Now put it on and get your ass downstairs."
He strode out of the room and shut the door. I felt grateful for the privacy, and then angry that I was feeling grateful for something I was entitled to. My anger surged when my eyes fell once again on the uniform on the bed. It was actually lingerie, designed to look like a sexy French maid uniform. The black material that covered the breasts was sheer, so I went back in the bathroom and picked my bra up off the floor. I grabbed my shorts, too, and put them on over the black panties that had been provided with my uniform. Mason scowled when he saw me, but I spoke before he could. "I'll get arrested for indecent exposure if I go out in this without a bra." "What is she wearing?" Addison demanded sharply. "What the hell, Mason? I'm your girlfriend."
"Which is how I'll introduce you at my party tonight,"
he replied.
"That's why my maid has to clean my house and get it ready."
"You're not going to be screwing her behind my back," Addison insisted vehemently. "I won't put up with it. I had to wait a whole damn year for you to acknowledge me as your girlfriend, and you're not going to have her as your dirty little secret now." A year. I reeled with the realization that she had been seeing him behind my back for the duration of our friendship. She was the only friend I'd had that he hadn't chased off, and now I knew why. "You've been planning this for a whole year?" I questioned him in disbelief.
"Brilliant, isn't it?"
he bragged.
"I had to be so patient this time. I had to give her time to earn your trust."
My gaze shifted to Addison. "So you were never my friend?" I asked dejectedly. She scoffed. "Who wants to be friends with you? Anyone can see from a mile away that you're a boyfriend stealer." Her perception of me was bewildering. "What? I've never stolen anyone's boyfriend." She glanced down at my outfit and gave me a pointed look. It triggered my outrage, and I went off on her. "You think I want to wear this? You put me in this shit, you stupid bitch. How could you do this to me?" I finished in anguish, almost breaking down in tears again. Her expression hardened. "Like you would give a shit about me if Mason hadn't kept you from being popular." "I never tried to be popular," I insisted. "You know I can't stand those people."
"Girl fights are no fun unless you're ripping each other's clothes off. So let's go,"
Mason said. I turned my ire on him. "You are such an asshole. I can't believe you want him to be your boyfriend," I told Addison.
"Every girl wants me,"
Mason stated like it was a fact. Sadly, it was true. They looked no further than his gorgeous face and social status as one of the most popular guys at school. His personality certainly had nothing to do with it. He was arrogant and apparently sexist, and ruthless as I now knew.
"Come on, maid," he commanded. "It's time to do your job."
"You better not fuck her," Addison said, in a tone that sounded more panicked than threatening. His cold gaze was fixed on me as he replied to her.
"I don't associate with my inferiors. She's just a servant. And trash. The skank doesn't fall far from the skank tree."
"Yeah," I retorted. "That's why Addison should be worried. Like father, like son." Mason stiffened. If I thought his gaze was cold before, it was glacial now. He had the pitiless, cold-blooded stare of a predator. His silver gray eyes always held an animal magnetism, and they now looked like wolf eyes stalking prey. I took an involuntary step back from him, my heart stuttering like that of a scared rabbit. I actually jumped when he snapped at me, his terse tone cutting across my taut nerves, and I scurried out to his car like he commanded. He came striding out as I tried to take a breath, not giving me time to compose myself before being trapped with him in his car. He was coiled tight with anger, making the atmosphere in that enclosed space almost unbearably tense. I clutched my knee as I kept my left elbow pressed against my side to keep it off the armrest and as far away from him as possible. He didn't say a word until we arrived at his house. It was similar to mine, a colonial-style home that was a dream come true for me.
"This is where I live now,"
he said in a harsh, disparaging tone. "It's nice," I replied timidly, still cowed by the tension emanating from him. His head turned toward me, and I regretted speaking.
"Nice,"
he repeated in scorn.
"Maybe for trailer trash like you. I grew up on an estate that was in my family for generations."
I remembered the place. I had felt like Cinderella at the royal palace during the short time I had lived there, before my mother got us kicked out. I hadn't met Mason because he had been away at boarding school. I had seen pictures of him, though, and I had dreamily imagined him as my handsome prince. What a naive fool I had been. But I was only 12 at the time. He got out of the car, and I reluctantly followed him into his house. I immediately noticed the dust on the entryway table. He saw me looking at it.
"My mother isn't much of a housekeeper,"
he remarked. I rolled my eyes before I could stop myself.
"What?"
he questioned. "Nothing," I replied.
"Tell me,"
he demanded. "It's just your assumption that it's her job to clean the house just because she's a woman. You live here too," I added, gaining confidence in my argument.
"So you're a feminist,"
he commented, surprising me with an amused expression.
"This is going to be fun."
His eyes took on a wicked gleam that unnerved me again.
"I'll show you where the cleaning supplies are."
He led me to the laundry room, where there were cabinets containing all the usual cleaning products. He pointed to a corner of the room where a mop rested inside an empty bucket.
"Bring the bucket,"
he instructed. I grabbed the mop in one hand and the bucket in the other, but he told me to leave the mop. So I brought the bucket, and he had me fill it halfway with water from the faucet over the laundry tub before pouring in some Pine Sol. He then had me carry the bucket to the kitchen as he walked empty-handed. I felt like Cinderella again, but he was no Prince Charming. As I set the bucket down on the floor, Mason grabbed a brand new pack of cleaning rags from the kitchen counter and ripped it open.
"Here,"
he said as he handed me a rag. I wet it at the sink and began to wipe the countertop.
"No,"
he snapped.
"Mop the floor with it."
"But there's a mop," I protested.
"I told you what will happen if you argue with me. Do you want everyone to see that picture?"
His cruel expression left no doubt in my mind that he would do it, and I cringed at the thought of everyone seeing me naked and in such a pornographic pose. Dropping the rag into the bucket, I began to crouch down.
"Take your shorts off first,"
he ordered. Despite his threat, I opened my mouth to protest, but he cut me off before I could speak.
"The shorts or the bra. It's your choice." "Now,"
he barked as I hesitated over what to do.
"Or you'll take off everything."
I quickly pulled down my shorts and stepped out of them, feeling immediately exposed in the black lace panties covered only by the sheer, short skirt. They were so small that my ass cheeks were hanging out.
"Get down on your hands and knees and mop the floor,"
Mason commanded. As I silently complied, I understood now what he was doing. Addison had been wrong. None of this was about sex. He wasn't making me expose myself to him because it aroused him to look at me. He just wanted to humiliate me. And it was working. I had never felt so humiliated in my life as I did with him standing behind me as I wiped the floor in this demeaning position.
"Shit,"
he swore.
"Your body is fucking insane."
His exclamation threw me. It sounded like he had uttered it spontaneously, and it was obvious that it wasn't part of his humiliation plan.
"Get up,"
he said gruffly.
"Go get the fucking mop. It'll take you forever this way, and I've got a party to prepare for."
I hurried to comply before he changed his mind, but he didn't say another word as he watched me mop the floor. It was infinitely less degrading while standing on my feet, and there was actually something satisfying about removing the dirt to reveal a sparkling clean surface. Mason appeared restless rather than satisfied, though.
"I've got to go get some supplies for the party. Finish cleaning the rest of the house. Mop the bathrooms, too, before you dump the water."
Without waiting for a reply, he left me alone in his house. I immediately put my shorts back on so I wouldn't be caught in my underwear by his mom if she came home. I wondered how he would explain my presence and my outfit to her. Wary of his threats, I got to work cleaning the rest of the house. I also wanted to get it done and get out of there. The only break I took was to drink a glass of water after the kitchen floor was dry. It helped alleviate the residual effects of my hangover, and I started to feel more like myself. With a clearer mind, I assessed my predicament and decided that living with it was preferable to dealing with the consequences of that picture of me being circulated among my peers. Although Mason was picking on me in a more extreme way than before, he was still the same bully he had been for the past 3 years. He dealt in psychological warfare rather than physical, and as long as it stayed that way, I could deal with it until I could take my own revenge on him. I had formulated my own plan while I scrubbed the bathtub. I knew that Mason's birthday was on November 17th, which was 3 months away from today. He would be 18 years old, but I would still be 17 until February. That meant that he would be an adult in possession of child pornography, since I was a minor. I had realized that I could go to the police now, but I wanted him to face the full extent of the law. The consequences would be a lot more severe if he was charged as an adult. I just had to bide my time until then, and I would, as long as he didn't take things too far. It would be worth it to see him pay for all the misery he had put me through. If I could make it through 3 more months, Mason would spend the rest of his life wishing that he had never taken that picture. He would regret the day he ever started messing with me in the first place. When I happened upon his room as I vacuumed upstairs, I was surprised to discover that it was the cleanest room in the house. There was no dust on his dresser, and it had none of the clutter that was typical in a teenage boy's room. Nothing littered the floor to impede my way with the vacuum, and I was done quickly. Yet I lingered to look around in his private space. There were a few bottles of men's cologne on his dresser, along with his deodorant. Whenever I had gotten a whiff of him over the years, he always smelled good. The way he dressed in slacks and nice shirts was probably a remnant from his boarding school days. His appearance and his understated masculine scent left a more sophisticated impression than other guys his age. Even his bedroom gave off that impression. There was nothing about it that indicated that it was a teenage guy's room. It looked like a man's bedroom with its elegant, masculine look. The walls were painted a soft gray, and his bed was black and accented by a white bedspread and white pillows stacked by the black headboard. The refined look of his room matched the outward appearance of its owner. The family photograph on his nightstand completed the effect. It showed Mason with his parents. They were all smiling and looking happy. Yet looks could be deceiving. Mason's dad had been cheating on Mason's mom, so they hadn't been as happy together as they appeared. I didn't know what Mason had been like back then, but his bad behavior now ruined the good impression gleaned from his appearance.
"That was what your slut mother destroyed,"
he said, and I turned to see him standing in the doorway. "Then why not go after her?" I asked. "Why are you taking it out on me? I was a kid, just like you were." Surprise showed on his face.
"You're not going to defend your mother? Try to tell me that it wasn't her fault?"
"It was just as much his fault as it was hers, unless you think that she raped him."
"She knew that he was a married man,"
he argued, his voice rising in volume as he moved toward me.
"She knew that he had a family."
"So did he," I retorted, "but that didn't stop him from cheating on his wife." Mason went still, and his eyes took on that dangerous gleam. I froze at the realization that I had just poked at his wound. I had just called his dead father a cheater, which was true, but I was the last person he wanted to hear that from, especially since his father had died while having sex with my mother. Then I remembered the threat hanging over my head. "Mason," I began hesitantly.
"Did I say that you could address me by my first name?"
he snapped at me.
"Let me make something clear to you. You are my servant, and you will know your place. You will call me sir."
My temper flared instantly at that outrageous demand. "Sir?" I sneered. "Is that some bondage crap? Because if you think I'll ever let you touch me, you're out of your mind." He smiled thinly.
"Of course your mind would go there. Look at who raised you. Well, let me set you straight. You're not going to get out of this by seducing me. I wouldn't touch trash like you. So you better remember your place and start showing me some fucking respect."
It hurt to be called trash, even by him. "You haven't done a damn thing to earn my respect," I lashed out at him. "Talk about trash. What kind of an asshole undresses an unconscious girl and takes pictures of her?" He gave me a mocking smile.
"You weren't unconscious. I was just going to take a video of you acting like a drunk fool, but you tried to seduce me. You were dancing suggestively and rubbing up against me, and then you took your shirt off."
I scoffed at his claim. "You're lying."
"I have the video to prove it," he replied. "I already had enough to make you squirm, but then you asked me if I wanted to see more. You took your clothes off for me."
As I watched him with a skeptical look, his gaze momentarily dropped from mine as he swallowed in what almost appeared to be a nervous gesture. His jaw hardened, and there was a steely look in his eyes when they met mine again.
"You told me that you've had a crush on me since you were 12 years old."
I froze. "You're lying," I whispered. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and swiped at the screen before coming to stand beside me as the video played. I saw myself dancing alone first, my body moving to the beat of the music. I stopped to take a swig of tequila straight from the bottle before resuming my dancing.
Smile,
A male voice said.
I'm taking your picture.
I halted and faced the camera directly, my face breaking out in a delighted smile, the way it never would if I saw him when I was sober. Mason, you're here! Dance with me.
Hold this,
He said, presumably talking to Addison.
keep filming.
He appeared in the camera frame, and I approached him with my arms raised, dancing seductively. You're so hot, I told him. I have sexy dreams about you.
What happens in your dreams?
He asked in a low, seductive voice as he gazed at me. I pressed my body up against his. You touch me, I answered in a sultry tone.
Where?
I took a step back from him and pulled my shirt off, flinging it away. Touch me, I urged, closing the space between us again. The camera tilted crazily, and the floor and wall came into view at a sideways angle. That's enough, Addison said.
Keep filming,
Mason barked. You're not fucking screwing her, Mason. I won't. The camera view tilted again.
Get out of here,
He growled. Are you kidding me? She exclaimed. You think you can screw her in my house?
Shut up.
He yelled.
I'm not screwing her. I fucking hate her.
You hate me? I heard myself wail. But why? The camera view captured me again, and I was pouting.
Go,
Mason commanded.
I want to get this damn video.
I can.
Leave.
He cut her off sharply. Promise you won't do anything with her.
I fucking promise.
He snapped.
Just let me get this done and she'll be out of your hair.
I was drinking more tequila while they argued, but I set down the bottle as he approached me. You're taking my picture? I asked happily, apparently having forgotten the conversation we just had.
Yes,
He replied.
you've got a great body.
I smiled at him, pleased with the compliment. Want to see more?
Yes,
He said.
show me more.
Is this a dream? I asked him. You take off my clothes in my dreams?
Yeah,
He responded, his voice sounding husky. You're so beautiful, I spoke dreamily. I've had a crush on you since I was 12. I want to marry you. Mason moved the phone away from me and turned off the video.
proof that you asked me to take off your clothes.
He clipped out. How could you do that? I demanded. After I was all... The word vulnerable came to mind, but I didn't voice it.
Romantic?
He supplied derisively.
Yeah, I wasn't falling for that. I know your mother taught you to use whatever you can to get your claws into a man.
I'm not like my mother, I raged. I don't use sex to get things. I've never even... I trailed off in mortification. He was the last person I wanted to confess that to. He snorted.
You've never had sex? Addison told me how you said you're a virgin, but I'm not buying that bullshit. Not with how you spread your legs for me last night.
I stared at him. We didn't... His silver gray eyes regarded me contemptuously.
I told you I wouldn't touch trash like you. You're my servant and nothing else. Is that clear?
Don't call me trash, I said as I glared at him.
The only words that should come out of your mouth when you speak to me are yes, sir. Say it,
he ordered. I'm not calling you...
Say it, or I'll send that picture out to everyone on my contact list.
He threatened as he raised his phone and held his thumb over the screen. I lunged at him and tried to grab his phone, but he reacted with quick reflexes and twisted away from me in what looked like some kind of martial arts move. I skidded to a stop and turned to face him.
Do you really think I don't have that picture stored anywhere else?
He inquired coolly.
If you break my phone, you'll just have to buy me a new one. Now say the words."
Everything in me rebelled against it. Somehow it seemed worse than the indignity he had already put me through. "Yes, sir," I said through gritted teeth. His mocking smile made me want to slap him.
"Now remember to address me that way at the party tonight."
Dread curled in my empty stomach. "The party?"
"You'll be serving drinks,"
he informed me.
"Make sure you wear your uniform."
I blanched. I can't wear this in front of everyone. That's almost as bad as having them see the picture. His eyes traveled insolently over me before shifting to his phone. He didn't swipe at the screen, so he couldn't have pulled up my picture. His gaze was heated when he looked back at me, though.
"Not even close,"
he said, his voice pitched in a sexual tone that elicited a carnal response in my body. Heat spread through me as our gazes locked. In that moment, I knew that he wanted me. I had fantasized about having him look at me that way, but I hadn't known how powerfully erotic it would be, how it would set my pulse pounding and shoot liquid fire straight down to my core. The intensity of his gaze made my knees weak as I stared back at him in a haze of lust. His ringtone startled us out of it. Jerking his hand up, Mason scowled at the screen before answering his phone.
"What?"
he snapped.
"Yes,"
he answered in exasperation after listening for a beat.
"I'm just about to drive her home."
He ended the call without waiting for a reply.
"Let's go,"
he said to me, and spun toward the doorway. I followed his quick stride downstairs and out to his car. We remained awkwardly silent during the ride to my house as I became uncomfortably aware of the state my body was in after my intense surge of lust. I needed another shower to wash away the moisture between my legs. I couldn't wait to finally be alone, but Mason got out of the car too after parking it in my driveway. "What are you doing?" I asked in alarm.
"I want what you're wearing back."
He pulled a shopping bag out of the back seat.
"This is your new uniform. Wear it tonight."
I eyed the bag warily, but I didn't have any fight left in me right now. I just wanted him to leave so I could get a break from everything. Walking up to the house, I unlocked the door. Fortunately, nobody was home, so I didn't have to explain why I was dressed like this. Mason surprised me by not following me to my room.
"Hurry up,"
he admonished me. He didn't have to tell me twice. I was eager to get rid of him, so I dumped the new uniform he had bought me on my bed and quickly shoved everything I stripped off into the shopping bag. I kept my shorts because they were mine. I hated to give Mason the panties I had worn, but I was afraid he'd come back for them if I didn't. Putting on my regular cotton panties, I pulled my shorts back on and threw on a t-shirt before going downstairs and handing him the bag.
"Be at my house at 8,
he said, and left like he was just as eager to get away from me as I was to see him go. Hope flared within me that he was already getting tired of having me around. If he hated me, it made sense that he wouldn't be able to stand to be around me very long. Maybe I wouldn't have to go to the police after all. Waiting for Mason's 18th birthday wasn't the only reason I was delaying reporting him to the police. I really didn't want anyone to see that picture, not even the authorities. I have to watch for an opportunity to get rid of it. Since Mason was giving me free reign of his house, I might be able to get to it and delete it from his devices. Then I would be free of his threats and out of this bizarre predicament I was in.